we go. And how are we all going today? How are you doing wherever you are right now? Check in with yourself. This is Kathryn from Kady Consulting, where we kindle awareness and discover you. This is all about you. And how are we all going today? Let me just stop that background. How are you doing wherever you are right now? Check in with yourself. This is Kathryn from Kady. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to come in here and welcome you. I'm going to be experimenting with this. It's all new. It's all fun. And that's the great thing about technology, right? Welcome. I wanted to come in here today and just have a chat to you about a word, actually, just about a word. I've been listening to Brené Brown's Rising Strong. Amazing book. If you have not read it or at least purchased it on Audible, get it. It's fantastic. And she came up with this most amazing word, and it's kind of intrigued me ever since she said it. And that word is, let me get it correct pronunciation here. Confabulation, right? Absolutely interesting word, confabulation. So I'm one of those people who gets fascinated by words. And when she said this word, I was like, what the heck, what does it mean? And she did explain it too in some detail in the book. So if you've read the book, you probably already know it. But aside from that, I've never actually heard the word before. But confabulation, according to my little Google search, refers to the production or creation of false or erroneous memories without the intent to deceive, sometimes called an honest lying. So alternatively, it says confabulation is a falsification of memory by a person who believes he or she is genuinely communicating truthful memories. So this is an interesting word for me because I love doing psychology, love working with people and their minds and their concepts, and understanding how what they conceive in their head may not necessarily be true, but for them, it's as true as it can be, right? So one person's experience about something where someone said something scolding to them can be really life devastating to them, whereas another person can be just brush it off and make no difference. And it always fascinates me how we respond differently, depending on our circumstances and our past and many different things that we're dealing with here. So this word then created me thinking, well, what does that actually mean to us as coaches, but also as a person? Like, I'm a person, right, too, because the concept of the idea then is, what is reality, and is there any realness about reality? Because everything we're experiencing is through the lenses of our own eyes. We're seeing them through our own perception and our own experience. Now, if we saw a particular event as being something traumatic, then that's how we experienced it. Whether it was traumatic, what scale of traumatic it means, it's not going to be something that somebody else may necessarily be even able to understand. All we can do is imagine what it's like to have experienced what they have. That's what empathy is, right? And we can have a whole nother conversation about that. So this concept of the idea that people have made up these memories that aren't exactly lies, because in their head they feel real. They feel like real things. Like when somebody says, they said something like, there might be something really small, like, oh, you look ugly, right? And our perception is they hurt us. And then we might go and tell a story to somebody else and go, yeah, this person said something that really hurt me. Now, that's not wrong, but they may not have intended to do it that way. It's not exactly a lie. It's from our memories and it's from our experience. That person just literally made a comment. They might have said, hey, red on you looks interesting. How do we know what their perception was or what they were trying to communicate with us unless we stop and ask them? But so many times we're judging and jumping to conclusions based on our past experiences. We have lots of different filters that we use to go through that. We go through, our values, our beliefs, our attitudes, our experiences, our memories, all those type of things that get filtered through to help us decide what decisions that we make. So as we become more aware and we start to create more understanding and empathy and compassion for ourselves, we start to see that many of the interpretations that we have are based on beliefs and old patterns that we've brought with us from the past to our present. So for me, this word Confabulations is fabulous in a way, because it's the fabrication of what it is that's experienced your life. Now, the interesting thing about this is everybody's life is unique. There's not one person out there who has experienced the same life as you. You are individual, you are unique, and the way you experience the world is you're the only person who's ever been through it, and you're the only person who ever will be through it. They've done twin studies on situations where they've put twins in the same situations, and they've come out with different results based on maybe a word that they heard differently from a peer, or watched something on television, all those, and they can have completely different experiences in life. It's the age-old psychological debate, nurture or nature. Were they born or were they learned? And we know now that it has to be a balance of a bit of both. We know we're born with certain personality traits. However, we develop our character as we grow, and that character is be affected by our environment and the situations that we get exposed to. So how we fabricate our life is, as children, is influenced very much by our big people in our life, the people who provided for us what we needed, or what we thought we needed, or what they thought we needed. And they only did what they knew what to do. I don't think there'd be very many people out there who have a purposeful way of screwing up people's lives. And even if they did do that, they didn't probably intend to do that. That was something that just happened as a result. So it's interesting to conceive that idea that even often the people who have done the worst effects on people, it's not necessarily because they were trying to do damage to that person, but that they were trying to do something that was what they thought was a resourceful way, which we now know is an unresourceful way, to deal with something they haven't been able to process or to deal with. So often they'll blame or shame or guilt or divert away the pain that they feel within themselves onto something else, right? Like, projection, right? But I digress. So back to the topic here. So we, as a sense, fabricate up our experiences through memories. After all, that's what we're built with. This stuff in our brain, that gray matter, is all a whole heap of memories, a whole heap of information. If we didn't remember all the things that we'd been through and all the stuff that we'd experienced, then we wouldn't have any upsets, or we wouldn't have any things that we were carrying around with us, because we wouldn't remember how we were treated, or we wouldn't remember all the bad memories and experiences we have. Now, the interesting thing about this is that we tend to remember the negative stuff a lot more than the positive stuff. And isn't that interesting? That's a whole nother discussion as well too. But that's a trained behavior. That's a trained trait that often we are programmed to use the negative effects, or the pain or the suffering, to motivate us into avoidance. So we want to avoid suffering, we want to avoid pain, so we choose things that are going to avoid from experiencing those things, because we were never really taught that leading into the pain or leading into the fear to find out how we can work through it, it was better to avoid it and go completely different way, and try a different way. Understandable, right? I mean, what did we know? We were kids. We didn't really know any different. We just wanted to avoid getting negative effects. Maybe it was, physical discipline. Maybe it was verbal discipline. Maybe it was neglect. Maybe it was, in search of a painful, wanting to heal painful relationships. I mean, there's plenty of different reasons that we can do the things that we do. However, now we're adults. Now we've learned that we are the people who experience our own experience in our head. So it's then being able to go, okay, I'm not necessarily going to make logic of a lot of the things that I experienced, because it's fabricated. So can I look at this as a fabrication of my experience and sift through the things to see what has been giving me gifts and what things have been giving me grievances? And can I go through them and work out what works well and what doesn't? That's what life's all about. Now, I probably rambled on plenty here, but I just wanted to come in because I wanted to talk about that confabulations and introduce that word to you, and hopefully it can confound you a little bit more. And I wanted to also give you a task if you're willing and up for the challenge. So Brené Brown also talks about doing an SFD, or what she calls a shitty first draft. And it's a journaling task. And the idea is to just freely write down your story. Write down your stories of the things that are coming up in your head constantly, the ones that you keep going back and going, oh, I remember this and it's all their fault because they did that. Write it down, express those beliefs and those feelings and see them for what they are. So you can fabricate that information onto a piece of paper and see it written out as a story, because that's what it is. It's a story that happened to you in your past that's led up to now. It doesn't exist anymore. It's an event that happened many, many years ago that continues to carry its weight in your experience. You continue to carry that experience in the gray matter. Now, that doesn't mean you should just ignore it or you should just get rid of it or should anything. It means that this is where the work is, right? It's being compassionate and kind and understanding that we have these experiences that happened and we've carried with it beliefs and meanings into our reality now. It's untangling that messy, knotty ball that's happened and starting to unwind the bits and recreate a whole new fabric so that we can have, oh, I love that word, see, fabric, another fabric, right? And we can reweave a whole new fabric of experiences going into our future so that we actually become the masters of our own destiny. Yeah. So if this sounds interesting to you, please contact me. I'd love to hear from you and see what resonated with you. If you want to have a chat, I'm available for a chat. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I've just had some fun with this music. I'm going to pop some music on again as we head out. And thank you for being around, and we'll catch you around again soon. Bye.